Hi, I'm Diego Dugatkin, the Chief Product Officer at Box. The future of work is unfolding today with all the exciting developments in AI. As enterprises explore AI with enterprise content, many questions have emerged. What steps should enterprises take to leverage AI responsibly? How can businesses navigate new security and privacy risks? To discuss this and much more, Ravi Malick, the CIO of Box, caught up with Ritu Jyoti, a leading analyst from IDC and an expert in the field of AI. Let's take a look.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, and welcome everyone. I'm Ravi Malick, Global CIO at Box, and today I have the pleasure of hosting a fireside chat with Ritu Jyoti, Group VP AI and Automation at IDC, to discuss the latest trends in applying artificial intelligence to enterprise content. As we all know, the use of AI in the enterprise has meteorically risen to the top of the conversation charts, with businesses seeking to gain a competitive edge by leveraging new technologies. In this session, we'll explore the opportunities and challenges associated with using AI for enterprise content and gain insights into how organizations can stay ahead of the curve. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ritu.
Thank you, Ravi. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone.
Ritu, to start us off, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself and how you got into AI and automation and what you think about this world that we're in today?
Sure, Ravi. It would be a pleasure. So as you know, I'm currently the Group Vice President for AI and Automation, Market Research and Advisory Services. And over the last 4 years, plus years, I've been working with the best of the minds in the industry, be it from the technology suppliers like you folks or technology buyers or the academia, the practitioners, the investor community. And I mean, it's so exciting to see, in the last 4 years, there was a lot of conversation, there was optimism, but I have never seen the enthusiasm as I see today. And, when I speak to a lot of the CEOs in the industry, they tell me that in the midst of all the gloominess and all the, macroeconomic situation, this is like a bright, shiny object right now. They see some hope there. And it's all driven by, you and I know what happened in November of 2022. It was a master stroke by, in my humble opinion, by Sam Altman. It's not just the technology, but it was how it was brought to the industry, the usability aspects of it, right? It really made each one of us hooked to it. And now the enterprises worldwide are kind of very excited about expanding the labor productivity aspect of it. I suddenly feel that I've gotten a productivity booster, And in the past, when we were using AI, it was there, whether you were binging on Netflix movies, listening to Siri and Alexa, you were going and shopping and there were recommendations to you, or more from an enterprise content if you were doing any kind of document processing, any recommendations. But as Satya Nadella from Microsoft has said, it was in the autopilot mode. It was working behind the scenes and nobody was really paying attention to. And now we are in this era of, co-pilot. It is augmenting we humans, right? And I'm super excited. I'm extremely lazy. I really want to use it for creating all my fancy PowerPoints with all the handwritten notes. I'm looking forward to unleashing our creativity and unlocking a productivity in a very, very different way. But more on a serious note, as you and I know, Ravi, this technology has the potential to revolutionize the way we all interact, how human and computer interaction will go forward.
You made some interesting points there, but can we dig a little bit deeper? Like what is making the conversation different today at the enterprise level about AI than past conversations? Like why is it so different? You mentioned autopilot and now it's co-pilot. Why is co-pilot so different?
Because, it's actually, in the past, things were happening, but it was still dealing with a lot of drudgery, a lot of manual work that you and I had to do. Like if you take the example of a CRM application or a content management application, it did all the business policies and took care of the rules of the what the company had to go through. But there's a lot of explosion of unstructured data. The majority of the data is unstructured. It is scattered over all the places. And think about a salesperson. He or she is actually working together on a proposal, and he is working on, say, in an Outlook instance. Some of the data is coming from his Teams chat. Some of the data is coming from, CRM applications. And he and she had to extract the data manually, and it took him or her, a couple of hours or maybe a couple of days to put together a proposal. Now, with the advancements of these generative AI technologies, you can do text summarization. You can get a draft proposal. It's so much easier. It's like giving everyone a personal assistant to kind of explore and expand into what they can do. It is kind of, taking away the drudgery in your work. And that is something is really kind of changing the conversation as to how everyone in the organization can use it. And that was not possible in the past, right? I mean, there's challenges with the data, the quality of the data. One of the biggest problems in the past, Ravi, as you know, is that, while there were conversations about AI, most of the organizations couldn't scale it effectively. There was cost issues, there was lack of talent issues, there was lack of data, quality of data issues, and foundational models, which is the kind of heart the foundation behind these generative AI technology, is basically promising to transform the organization's ability to accelerate time to value, kind of do this in a much more structured way. Although I have to call that out, it's early nascent days of the technology. While there's so much of enthusiasm, we have to be cautious about how we use it and how we embrace it.
And we're going to get into that, the cautiousness that we need to exercise and the potential risks associated with it. But you mentioned, I just want to clarify, when you say unstructured data, I mean, you're really talking about content. Structured data would be rows, columns, but unstructured data, right? And I think in structured data, everybody's talking about analytics, right? If you're not in the analytics game, kind of, what are you really doing in business? But now it's really the unstructured data, right? That holds so much potential, and where AI, as you're saying, is really going to help unlock that value.
Yeah.
On that note, what types of companies, what parts of businesses, who do you think is going to be first to really unlock that value and really take advantage of AI to either create a competitive advantage or accelerate their competitive advantage? What types of business value are you seeing being driven here or have the potential to be driven?
Yeah, so IDC does extensive amount of survey, on all of these areas, and we also have the privilege to talk to hundreds and hundreds of C-suite and practitioners and people who are kind of in their experimentation stage. And so we ran a survey earlier this year in January, and we figured that out that only 11% of the organizations mentioned that they were interested in investing in generative AI. So that was in January. But when we ran the similar kind of a survey in March, and it was a worldwide survey for us, and we surveyed about 952. I have to be more precise. I would have rounded it off to say 1,000 organizations. We noticed that 24% of the respondents said that they were investing in generative AI this year, and 37% of them were saying doing some initial exploration. So back to your question, that what are the use cases and what parts of the business? So the first thing that I'd like to kind of share with you all is that, knowledge management is a key use case. It holds the most promise because it's one of the most labor intensive, effort. And especially back to that unstructured content is stored in SharePoint repository, in some emails, in some kind of, someone's laptop, someone's desktop. It's all over the place. And there's so much information. So this will give birth to a new business model or a knowledge model, if I may say, to kind of mine these data insights in a much more effective way and help organizations get their competitive advantage, make faster decisions, and especially from the unstructured content. That's what I'm talking about. But then when I step back and kind of think of the broader use cases, let me answer. Today, we are seeing that the smaller companies are experimenting with generative AI more than the mid-size and the large enterprises. This will change. Digital natives, no surprise, they are further along when it comes to investing in generative AI. When you think about the different parts of the business, right, we are seeing a lot of interest in the software development and design, product management and design. We are also seeing in sales and marketing usage in terms of drafting blogs and emails, drafting proposals, doing A/B testing of different marketing campaigns, text summarization. Think about there as a customer service, you're a customer service person or you're product marketing or a research organization within a company, and they would like to kind of get customer sentiment analysis done. And there are very interesting solutions in the market today that can help organizations aggregate those responses from NPS data, from surveys, from emails, and put together a customer sentiment or customer feedback, which can be very effective in strategic planning as well as tactical resolution of problems. But as I said at the start of the conversation, Ravi, which you might be also hearing from your customers, today the macro focus is actually on expanding labor productivity. But the potential is much more than that. It's actually can be used for personalizing customer experiences, accelerating R&D design. And my favorite, I love to focus on the strategic aspects. Organizations can actually uncover new business models. They can change the way they're actually kind of monetizing or going to the market. So that is the thing, but it's not happening with every organization today. Everyone is gravitating to improving or expanding labor productivity because we are hurting with lack of talent. We are being asked to do more with less. So that's where the focus is today.
And do you see it having a dramatic effect? And I mean, you talked about potentially changing the way organizations operate, changing how they do business. So, I mean, like a dramatic effect on how a merger and acquisition gets executed, or the materials get put together, or how R&D is run, or how innovation is uncovered. I mean, is that really what you're talking about?
Yes, all of the above, but I'll give you another simplistic example. You remember I was kind of teeing up to the fact that the human-computer interaction is going to change. So let's take an example, which is much more relatable example from a consumer side, because we all have been in awe with ChatGPT for a minute, right? But then I'll kind of bring this back to the enterprise context in a minute. So think about, in the consumer side, if you think, first time when the ChatGPT was launched, everybody went and kind of played around with it, asked the questions and got some, interesting responses, sometimes very authoritatively, some wrong responses as well. But
I may or may not have used it to create a few agendas, just maybe.
Yeah, but now what you're seeing is that, with the ChatGPT plugins announcement, right? Mm-hmm. What it's becoming is that it's transforming into a platform model. So you're saying that, that will become the common interface. So I'll give you an example. I love that example when I was seeing that demo, that if I or you, we are actually interested in finding a Korean restaurant for going for dinner on a Saturday. So we asked ChatGPT that, can you recommend me a Korean restaurant for my dinner, recommend me the recipe for my lunch on Sunday, and put together my shopping cart list for that. So it's actually has integrated, participated with all the OpenTable and Wolfram and Instacart, and it can actually kind of coordinate with all these different application plugins and provide you in minutes and seconds, all of that you go. So you don't have to go 5 different applications to kind of go on through this. And it's very, very common, conversational and human-like in the way you and I kind of would like to get things done. I would apply the same model to the business context, right? But if you think about it, if you are a healthcare company, and there's so much of chaos right now, the healthcare provider system is different, the payer system is different, your pharmacy is different. So what is some, I'm giving ideas to some of the companies here. Somebody becomes the gateway to all of this. And actually, the human-machine interface becomes conversational. So that is a turning point in a business model. You don't really need to be just monetizing your value proposition through the traditional go-to-market. Similarly, if you think about it, this has been my example for a long time. I love to say that you and I, we both buy car insurance, home insurance, health insurance.
Mhm.
What is common amongst all of that? There is a risk analysis done on my profile. Not everybody needs to create a risk analysis, on me based on my geography, my age, my other investments, and my local demographics where I'm staying. There could be one particular solution there which can mine tons and tons of data with all the advancements in generative AI back to the same unstructured content that I'm talking about. And that could be the interface, and the front interface could be natural language, conversational. But going forward, I envision that the human-computer interaction, the interface can become audio, video, speech. I mean, speech and audio is the same thing, but think about you and I actually are multimodal. We can speak, we can hear, we can touch, we can smell. So that's what I'm talking about. For everything, the whole go-to-market, the business model, there'll be newer methods of monetization. So bring this forward to your enterprise context. You could have a supply chain interface or a gateway for all the chaos that everyone is doing. I don't want to give up all my ideas here, but I'm just giving you some feedback.
I think, it's interesting. I was speaking to a CIO who's in the insurance industry and about AI and the implications on their business, and underwriting, right?
Exactly.
Came up as part of that conversation, and how, they're thinking about navigating that. And because it is a standard set of risk analysis, and it's all data oriented, and obviously insurance takes in economies of scales and pools. And so it was an interesting conversation. And it was, I asked him, I said, well, what do the underwriters think about that? And, I think there's always this sort of natural, okay, how is this going to impact me? Is this going to replace my job? But I think the way they were talking about it was, no, it accelerates, right? They can meet the demands of their customers faster. They can get a response back to customers faster because the meat of the work is done, but then the human, right? There's still human intervention. There's still a human review before something would go out, before a decision would be made. And so that, I think, that is, I think, how a lot of people are thinking about it. And certainly how, from a Box perspective, how we think about it as well, in terms of how do you make sure that the right things are going out, right? That the information is correct. Because I think you mentioned that a lot of the responses are wrong, and sometimes authoritatively wrong, right? And so that gets me to like some of the risks, right? That you had touched on a little bit. So Ritu, what role can AI play in improving enterprise content security?
That's a brilliant question, Ravi, because, while we talk about all the challenges that we run with AI and, in all these newer technologies and security, AI itself can help enhance content security by monitoring data flows, by recognizing anomalies. The framework can, initially we think about an operating concern, but with the right checks and balances, you can see how networks and systems are managed on cloud. You can have the right tools and technologies that can manage repetitive and time, continuous effective monitoring and threat detection. So we can go on and on, but it's really, really powerful in ensuring new levels of content security, managing content in context, and detecting anomalous patterns in content flow.
Well, that's I'm glad you think that way, because we recently released Box AI. And we're thinking of the same way. Like, our approach to security and sensitivity to a customer's content is very top of mind, right? All the things that we talked about, just want to make sure that customers feel comfortable leveraging and being able to use AI against their content, which has some of their most valuable information, to increase productivity, get new insights. So yeah, I think we feel the same way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, as I was saying, Ravi, that, organizations need to focus on the business outcome and work with trusted partners like you to take care of the actual content security. And that is fantastic that, you guys are coming to the forefront and alleviating those problems. And, they really need to work with these kind of solutions like yours. And they you're empowering them to focus on the actual business outcomes and how they can really expand labor productivity, or look through your improvement in customer experience, but put it in their best hands and your solutions, so that things kind of become more seamless. And today with the generative AI, it's all about content creation, and how do you kind of build this repository with the right security measures, with the right workflows and movement of the data. That is front and center. So fantastic to hear that you folks are kind of working in this area.
So I know, I mean, just I have to ask this because it's a burning question on everybody's mind. So can Skynet happen? Will Skynet ever happen?
Yeah, I chuckle at that. I have to tell you that it's not happening anytime soon. I mean, some people in the industry are going to kind of, maybe the more conservative people who have asked for a pause, they might think that it's coming. But if you read in between the lines, what they're saying is that they want to pause to kind of put some good kind of regulations around it, right?
Yeah.
It's happening too fast. And anything beyond GPT-4 is that what they're trying to kind of put a hold on, right? So the other thing you have to remember, European Union AI Act, they just came out. They have put a, requirement. They have called out, for my understanding, that they're not seeing any risks of these models right now, but they're saying that they have to be explicit and transparent in what they're using and what types of data is being used.
Yeah, no, I think that is an imperative, particularly I've seen this in companies that are in highly regulated markets, right? That there's a lot of concern, and I see, the pause or the blocking is based really on we need to be educated. We want to make sure we have the right governance, and that we're being sensitive to the needs of customers, but also the needs of the business as well. So I think I think there are some that may be a little bit ahead of the game, or they have more flexibility, and that they can start taking advantage of it much faster. But I think pragmatism, I think, is also will win the day here as well, and in effective use of AI. So just switching gears a little bit, but kind of playing a little bit on what you've outlined here. Is there any actionable advice that you would give businesses that are starting to explore the use of AI, and how should they do that? How can they set themselves up for success?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I always tell people that you need to start with the experimentation and the prioritization of the right use cases. You don't jump into production. You really need to work. This is not just about technology. You need to work with proactive change management. HR has a very significant role to allay concerns of the humans, right? How is it going to impact? I also kind of tell people that, that you need to bring the employees into the loop in defining its, people-centric work design and human-based organizations. This is an augmentation tool right now. It is going to unleash the creativity. I also say that prepare for how you're going to kind of take care of the short-term gaps in the skill set. Prepare for changing your ethical guidelines. Prepare for prompt tuning, fine-tuning skills, and, how do you do that? Make sure your ethical guidelines are updated. Make sure you're kind of making the right build versus buy, whether you're running on a public cloud on premises. I think, people fear about security in the public cloud, but it's more secure. And maybe you put the right guardrails there, work with them. And, just prepare. I feel that the C-suite has a very, very important role in putting together the company narrative and how they can actually make a difference. But use the right tools, partner with your right set of service providers, make sure you're investing in the right tools and right technology at the right time. It's a time to change the entire organization, and be prepared. This is not a nice to have that you can run away from.
Interesting. Not a nice to have that you can run away from. So you have to, at some point, you have to embrace it. You're not going to have a choice.
Yes.
Interesting. I think we've got a little bit of time left. So the last thing I'll ask before we close out here is, how do you see AI evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? What's the next phase of this?
So I think we are on this journey where, it's just kind of getting into the very basics and the early stages of actually changing the human-computer interaction. We are just seeing LLMs are kind of dominating the industry today. We are thinking that it's going to become more and more closer to how we humans behave, just the way you and I interact. That's how we are going to interact with computers. It's not going to have emotional quotient and the soft skills. So it's not becoming a human anytime in the near future, but it's actually going to be a companion, a co-pilot, an assistant that really kind of help us. I also want to say that, people have to be prepared. There's certain jobs going to be lost, but it's going to be augmented. Certain tasks may be replaced. So we have to be prepared for that future. As per my understanding, as per a third-party study, 60% of the workforce have jobs today that did not exist in 1940s. So it's a natural evolution, and it's all for our goodness. I just feel that it's all going to bring us together into being a much more productive, much more forward-looking organizations, and continue to focus on human design, human-based organizations.
So does that mean, are we going to see a shift from those from people majoring in STEM-oriented degrees to liberal arts? Does that mean like my poli-sci degree is going to be that much better and more effective because I can talk?
I'm greedy. I'll say both, a mix of both. I think a combination of people who have both the skills, curiosity. The culture has not to kind of die in this process. I recommend people need to get into this perpetual mindset of perpetual invention, and also don't kind of lose your intellectual curiosity and discovery and innovation in this process. This is an opportunity for us to get away from all the drudgery and really use our talent and skills that we have been blessed with. We are unique human beings, and we need to unleash our creativity to the fullest.
Awesome. I love it. An opportunity to get away from the drudgery. Well, Ritu, thank you so much for joining us. Greatly appreciated. Love the insight. And as you have said, AI is here to stay. You have to embrace it, and you have to figure out how to incorporate it into the enterprise and how you're doing business. And who knows, you may find some pleasant surprises and some new opportunities.
Thank you, Ravi. It was a pleasure. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for the conversation, and I hope you were able to take away a few tidbits. I know I learned a ton, and I am super excited about the future of AI.